UFC President Dana White was absolutely bullied and humiliated at the boxing press conference for Canelo versus Crawford, and it was absolutely amazing to see. We're going to break it all down in this video. Let me start off with this. Shout out to Sean Zittle, because this man called out Dana White to his face. He bullied Dana White to his face for the world to see. Some media are saying the opposite. We'll get to that towards the end of this video. But this was such an amazing sight to see, because Dana White over the years has insulated himself from any real media pushback or media criticism, because he filters who can actually ask him any questions, and that way he can avoid any actual real scrutiny by reporters, and he gets to push whatever false narratives that he wants with no real pushback. Well, that hasn't worked this week in the lead up to Canelo versus Crawford, because a woman reporter from PBS bullied him the other day. I did a video on that. I'll link that down in the description. And now at the press conference for Crawford versus Canelo, Sean Zittle went at Dana White's neck repeatedly. Dana White tried to brush him off. Dana White was shook. Dana White was flustered. He didn't know what to do. So what did Dana White do? He pushed the whole tough guy, strong man act. Beat it, buddy. Get out of here, buddy. We can take this behind closed doors, buddy. One-on-one, buddy. If you want to be an asshole, get out of here, man. Let's watch this, because this is arguably the best Dana White clip I have seen in probably 10 years, to be quite honest. Let's check it out.
Good evening, everybody. A couple questions for Dana. Dana, this fight, as you said earlier in the week, is set to be the third highest gate in combat sports history, the second biggest gate you've promoted alongside Mayweather-McGregor. The top 5 gates in combat sports history come in boxing, and they come in the last 10 years. So my question to you is, why then do you want to make sweeping changes to the Muhammad Ali Reform Act that is meant to protect fighters, to bring about a business model that currently has your company already paid out $375 million in antitrust lawsuits, and has 2 potential pending class action lawsuits on the way as well?
Oh my God. This was an absolute masterclass from Sean Zittle. So just a little background information. We're not going to get into the weeds too much. We'll cover it a little bit more later in the video. But the Muhammad Ali Act protects boxers and stops any one entity from becoming a monopoly and essentially exploiting fighters. Dana White is lobbying to change that. Therefore, he can start his TKO boxing with Turki Al-Sheikh, and he can take advantage of fighters and run a boxing organization like he runs the UFC. Okay, we're going to get into more of that later. But this guy says, Dana, we've already had all these high-grossing events, we've had all these big events, why don't you just try to compete like it is, instead of pushing a piece of legislation that is going to repeal those protections from fighters? He says, you already paid out multi-hundreds of millions for an antitrust lawsuit. You have 2 others in the making. So why are you doing this? Of course, Dana White does not have any answer.
Well, this is obviously a long discussion. If you want to talk to me about that, set up an interview. This isn't about me and my business. It's about these 2 guys on Saturday night.
They're booing Dana. By the way, did you guys hear that brutal stutter? I know everyone stutters here and there. I probably stuttered 10 times in this video. Dana doesn't know what to say. He is completely shook right here. But he doesn't. Sean Zittle doesn't let him off the hook. But let's listen to the response from Dana again.
A long discussion.
I started a little bit too late. Listen to this.
The way as well.
Well, this is obviously a long discussion. If you want to talk to me about that, set up an interview. This isn't about me and my business. It's about these 2 guys on Saturday night.
Set up an interview. By the way, the crowd's booing Dana White. Set up a one-on-one interview. By the way, he says that multiple times. That will never happen. Dana White will never do that interview, because when it comes to media, he doesn't want them to actually do their jobs. He wants obedience. He wants sycophancy. He wants them to worship him and to push his narratives and to be basically glorified publicists for him. And we're going to get to that in this video. But the guy continues to push back.
My follow-up, Dana. Earlier this week, the California State Athletic Commission had a hearing about TKO trying to bring those changes to the Ali Act, and it was postponed 3 months.
Listen, I get it. You want to showboat right now. Set up an interview with me if this is really what you want to talk about.
It's America, baby.
You have
First
questions
Amendment.
for these two.
First Amendment, baby. Dana's always champion freedom of speech, brother. Dana's like, this isn't about me. This isn't about me. We're going to get to that California State Athletic Commission meeting where they had discussion to now do this new piece of legislation to repeal those protections where they got nothing but negative responses. But Dana cut him off. He cut him off and said, look, we can do this one-on-one. This isn't about me. This is about these two guys. I'm here to promote these two guys. I'm here to promote Canelo versus Crawford. Now, this video that I'm making right now, by the way, subscribe to the channel, turn on notifications, like the video. This is like 8 hours in the making because I've been scrambling, watching old post-fight press conferences, watching recent Dana White interviews, and I want to play this clip. I think this is a very important clip that we have here because Dana's saying, this is about promoting this fight. Why are you acting like it's an unreasonable question to ask him about boxing and his promotion in boxing at a boxing press conference? Like, it's about the fighters, man. It's not about me, brother. I was watching this interview because there were some interesting comments made about Conor McGregor in the White House. I will link everything that I show you in this video down in the description. Remember, it's not about him. It's about the fighters. Listen to this question and answer from Dana White. Listen to this.
Well, talk to me about this. We're here obviously for Saturday. I know you want to focus on that. Canelo Crawford, massive fight. I know you can't really lean one way or the other, but how do you think
this is how I always.
What was the question? He's basically giving him a layup to promote the fight. Talk about the fight. I know you can't really make a prediction, but talk about the fight, promote the fight. Dana goes on to a 2-minute diatribe, sucking his own meat. Okay, pulling a Michael Chandler, staring in the mirror and masturbating. I'm going to sell tickets. I'm going to get people to spend money. I'm going to be a greatest promoter in boxing. Let's listen.
How I always lean is I want to be a part of, shows that when people fly to Vegas, buy tickets, spend money on hotel rooms and dinners, or stay home and watch it, or watch it in a bar,
yeah,
they're not bummed out that they wasted their time watching my events. That's my goal every Saturday, no matter what I'm doing. So there's a lot of things that go into that and a lot of attention to detail that I think every boxing promoter, not just some of them, doesn't do.
That's where Dana White comes in.
I just think that's the difference between me and everybody else.
Yeah.
So asked to promote the fight and then proceeds to glaze himself. I don't know if he misunderstood the question or what, but let's get back to this reporter pushing him back. Again, set up a one-on-one interview. This guy does not let Dana off the hook.
Ask him and you can set up an interview with me.
Dana, my follow-up is, if TKO can't make those changes to the Ali Act, will you still invest in the sport of boxing? Will you compete in the market?
Listen, if you want to be an asshole, let's do it in private and we can do an interview.
Yes or no?
If you want to showboat, I get it. If you have questions for these two that are fighting on Saturday, that's a different story.
Fight.
This isn't a discussion to have at a press conference for these two that are going to fight on Saturday, two legends. If you want to set up an interview with me and ask me these questions, let's do it one-on-one.
Sounds
and
good.
You can ask me anything you want.
All right. Well, Terrence and Saul, have a good fight.
Yeah, you have a question for these two?
No.
No? Beat it.
Beat it, brother. Beat it. All right, Mr. Krabs, you bald fucking bitch. All right. I'm going to try not to get too animated here because this shit really actually drives me nuts. It makes no sense. Dana is shook because he just got bullied by a boxing reporter because he's been used to subservient by the MMA media for years. We're not going to let them off the hook in this video. A simple question. If you are not able to change the Muhammad Ali Act, will you still invest in boxing? He can't even answer it. He keeps saying, you want a showboat? This guy has insulated himself so much from pushback. A simple question that he doesn't like is showboating and being an asshole. And the only response that he could muster up, because he's a weak man, is set up a one-on-one interview, buddy. Set up a one-on-one interview, buddy. And you know damn well, if Sean Zittle reaches out and says, Dana, I'd like that one-on-one interview, you think Dana's going to give him that one-on-one interview? No, we can do this behind closed doors, man. If you want to be an asshole, somebody please explain to me how that made him an asshole. Someone please explain to me how that was an unreasonable question to ask a promoter about how they are promoting boxing at a boxing press conference. Someone please explain that. I would love to know. But Dana White puts on this facade that he's a strong man and that he doesn't give a rat's ass and he don't give a fuck. But the slightest pushback and he gets his panties in a wad and he couldn't even give an answer. He couldn't muster up a yes or no answer. Set up a one-on-one interview. Mark my words, that will never happen. That's like Conor McGregor fighting at UFC 303. That's like Colby Covington stepping in the cage with Ian Machado Gary. Dana White giving that guy a one-on-one interview will never happen. And let me show to you. And beat it, buddy. Talk about a cornball. Let's actually watch that back real quick. Talk about you got a question for these guys? By the way, you like how they zoomed out? Whoever was in the media truck was like, oh, let's not get a tight shot on Dana because he shook to the core because he just got bullied by a reporter. This is what happens when Dana steps outside his UFC bubble. Let's listen to him again. Listen how aggravated he is here.
Sounds
and
good.
you can ask me anything you want.
All right. Well, Terrence and Saul have a good fight.
Yeah, you have a question for these two?
No.
No? Beat it.
Beat it. Beat it, buddy. Treat it like I treat my wife and beat it. That's what Dana says there. And let me show you what Dana White is used to here. This is what Dana White has surrounded himself with for years. This is at the UFC 295 post-fight presser. Listen to this. These are the types of questions he's getting. I could make an hour-long video of the disgusting, embarrassing, pathetic questions from the MMA media. Listen to this.
Yeah, and you had quite the group with you, cage side for the main card, Donald Trump, Kid Rock, all those people. What was kind of just the vibe like? What were they saying with this remarkable main card that, had 5 finishes?
All those guys are fight fans. Tucker Carlson's first time. And I always tell people that nobody walks into a UFC event live and then walks out and says, yeah, I don't ever want to see one of these again.
What were the vibes like sitting cage side with Donald Trump and Kid Rock? And you know what's crazy? That's Mike Bond, who's actually a decent reporter. So if you're getting that from him, everyone else is like, Dana, you're the greatest promoter of all time. Power Slap's so amazing. How many countries are you going to bring Power Slap into? But this guy asked Dana about the Muhammad Ali Act, and Dana can't even muster up an answer because he's so shook. Let's carry on, because I found this clip from UFC 314 where Dana's asked about the changes to the Muhammad Ali Act. Dana can't offer an answer here either. He's not promoting anyone else. This is a scrum, basically, after UFC 314. Can't even answer anything here either.
Earlier this week, there was a news story that broke about the Ali Act potentially being amended by UFC TKO with a memo being sent in. Speculation ran wild as to what that can be. Can you talk to that a little bit?
I'd rather not. Thanks for asking, though.
I'd rather not. So here was Dana asked about it in a different setting, not at a big boxing press conference, and Dana says, I'd rather not. And nobody pushes back. Nobody says, well, why, Dana? Why not? Well, let's look. I had to do some research because I'm not fully educated on the Muhammad Ali Act. Let me show you a clip of the recent California State Athletic Commission. They had a meeting before they took a vote on basically endorsing the new, which is called the Muhammad Ali American Boxing Revival Act, where every single person who called in for comment had nothing but criticism of it. And listen to Eric McGracken, who is like a lawyer, who delves in combat sports. Here is him calling in to voice his opinion to the California State Athletic Commission. Listen to this.
Minutes. Andy, you mentioned that about 20% of boxers in California are going to be hurt if this passes under the UBO model. Which of those 20%, which of those boxers have you consulted before forming your position to possibly support this bill?
Comments, please.
Comments, please. They can't even answer a question. They haven't consulted with any boxers because these commissions, these athletic commissions, are essentially arms of the UFC. The UFC can use their financial and political power to basically control these athletic commissions. That is a fact. But let's continue.
Okay. Well, just a question. Hopefully that can be answered. The second thing I'd comment on is if this bill passes, what you guys are endorsing are coercive contracts. So under the Ali Act, coercive contracts are prohibited. And everybody who puts their support behind this bill is green-lighting the ability for a promoter to now have coercive contracts. The top boxers are going to be exploited financially under this bill. And I heard the top boxers referred to as unicorns, but the top of everybody in every sport is a unicorn. They get paid the most because they earned their way to get paid the most. Those are the people who are going to be financially harmed the most. The last thing I'll say is the UBO model will let the promoter dictate who the fighters fight. So they get to call the shots of who you fight, where you fight, and when you fight. And if you don't play ball, they could freeze your contract, they could stall your career, they could hurt you financially, but they could hurt you physically as well, saying, hey, this will let promoters give the public fights that the public wants to see. It strips the fighters of their autonomy to look after their own health and safety. And I'd urge this commission, I'd urge this commission to think about your duties about the health and safety of fighters as well as their financial well-being, and taking away the top purses from the top fighters doesn't help their financial well-being.
So there you go. There's a kind of a brief synopsis about what's going on with Dana White boxing, Turkey Al-Sheikh, and the new Muhammad Ali American Boxing Revival Act. And I want to show you this article as well. Okay, let me actually go to the top of this article. CSAC postpones support for TKO-backed boxing bill amid flood of public criticism. And let me scroll down here. Okay. At the meeting, 12 people were given 2 minutes to voice their opinion about the act. All 12 speakers included former MMA fighters, journalists, managers, and lawyers voiced criticism of the act. At one point, CSAC Executive Director Andy Foster, who is an advocate for the bill, asked if the commission could stop listening to comments and move straight to its vote, presumably because of how similarly one-sided the comments were against the act. So this is something that people actually care about. And this man right here, let me actually rewind back. Shout out to this guy. Decided I am going to press Dana White about it. And regardless of him not getting any answers, he humiliated Dana. Dana is salty about this. Dana couldn't offer anything of substance back because all he wants is obedience. All he wants is bootlickers. That is what he wants. That is what he's created in the UFC. And Dana is a guy who just likes to copy and paste. You see him doing it with Power Slap, essentially trying to just run Power Slap exactly like the UFC. Now he's trying to do it with boxing. And in the UFC, he has lots of issues with his contracts being restrictive contracts to fighters all the time. It happened with Francis Ngannou. It happens all the time that we don't hear about because fighters are too scared to speak up. And he's trying to create the same culture in boxing. And this guy had the guts to go up there because he doesn't give a fuck about bald-ass Dana White. He's not scared of losing access. He covers boxing. He doesn't care. So he went up there and told Dana White, give me these answers. I have questions. Dana White tried to shoo him away, tried to pivot, tried to deflect. And the guy stood his base and kept just hammering Dana White. He was shook till finally Dana said, beat it. Dana will never give him that one-on-one interview. Now, the last thing I want to cover here, okay? Dana literally, this is my tweet. I quoted a tweet here. Dana White literally got bullied and embarrassed by this reporter so badly the bootlicking MMA media had to jump in and white knife for him. Quote, Dana White roasted him, end quote. Imagine being this much of a pathetic excuse of a media outlet. Let me show you boys. Let me show you boys what this tweet was that I was quoting that's now deleted. This person has now deleted this tweet. This tweet was pathetic. It was embarrassing. It was humiliating for the original poster. And it was none other than Full Send MMA. They said Dana White just roasted a reporter who tried to press him at the Canelo versus Crawford press conference. Quote, if you want to be an asshole, let's do it in private and we can do an interview. Oh my God. There were pussies saying, yeah, man, Dana told him 10-7 Dana. Imagine being so pathetic and such a dirty sycophant that not only do you not offer anything of value to MMA media, when you see somebody from boxing actually press Dana White, you have to go out of your way to say, yeah, man, Dana told him, Dana roasted him, Dana got him. Full Send MMA should be ashamed of themselves. Whoever's running this account, fuck them. They are the biggest waste of media that I have seen in a long time. They should be embarrassed. They should be ashamed of themselves, and they should be fired. But they're not going to be, because Full Send isn't, a promotional arm of the UFC because of their affiliation with the Nelk Boys. I think Nelk Boys owns Full Send MMA, who are buddy-buddy with Dana White because essentially they cross-promote with each other. They both have the same targeted demographic, which is young males. And so Full Send MMA say, how dare you? How dare you press my Dana White? How dare you press my bald man that I love licking on his boots? And there's plenty of other MMA media and MMA fans who were just Dana White shills, who were Dana White propagandists, who push narrative after narrative just because Dana White says so. And it is a massive problem in the MMA media. And I'm so glad that Sean Zittle decided to expose it. I went and followed him on Twitter, even though I don't give a rat's ass about boxing. So shout out to Sean Zittle. Hell of a press conference. He didn't back down from Dana White. And I think he should reach out to Dana White and try to get this one-on-one interview. That's never going to happen. And that just shows what a pathetic, weak male Dana White is. It doesn't matter how much money and power he has. When you can't face tough questions head on. Sounds awfully pathetic and weak and beta and soy to me. And I love that Sean said, First Amendment, because Dana's like, freedom of speech, brother. No matter what said, Dana's like, freedom of speech, brother. When somebody asked him, oh, you usually give your fighters a long leash. He's like, freedom of speech, brother. I don't care what they say. Well, freedom of speech, also freedom of press. And let me end with this. Anybody who said, okay, there's fans and other media members saying, this wasn't the time or place. They were regurgitating Dana White's talking point. He asked a boxing question to a boxing promoter about the boxing promoter's future in boxing at a boxing fucking press conference. So if you're one of those people that said, this is not the time or place, get Dana White's dick and balls out of your mouth. You're pathetic. Anyway, shout out to Sean Zittle. I'm getting out of here. Like the video, subscribe to the channel, and thank you so much for watching.